Welcome to the Blacktop Nomad, everybody. I'm Bo. This is Larkin. And we've been scouring Facebook Marketplace for the last couple weeks trying to find the best road trip vehicles we can find. And we're trying to find what the best deals are for certain categories. So, what our parameters were, is we're trying to find 4 different cars for 4 different categories. So we've got your daily drivers, the ones you can use every day and then still take on a great road trip. You've got your off-road specialty vehicles, so for those who like to get off the beaten path, try a trailer or two. We're also looking for sports cars, for those of us that want to take those sports cars out and enjoy them to the fullest, maybe take them to a track day or two. And then you've got your classic vehicles, and that's anything over 25 years old. So in each category, we've decided to choose 2 vehicles. The first vehicle is going to be unlimited budget. We can get whatever we want, whatever we think is going to be the best choice for that category that we can find on Marketplace. The second vehicle, we have a max budget of $15,000 to play with. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. First category up we're going to do today is the daily drivers. So, I'll go first and I'll see what we got here. First one I chose, Larkin, I went ahead and went with Civic Type R.
It's a good pick, honestly.
I mean,
yeah.
I really struggled with this category because for me, I like to do a variety of things. I like to do autocross, I like to go on long trips, I like to take it to the track every once in a while. And for daily drivers, there's not a whole lot of things you can get, in my mind anyway, that's going to do everything well. And I mean, you get the Honda reliability.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got great on-track dynamics. It's a hatchback, so you're going to have plenty of space to store stuff. So, in my opinion, you can't really go wrong with this one as your first choice.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they really stepped it up from the last generation of the Civic Type R. It was a little bit more boy racer, and now it's matured to a point where
I
you
really
can
wasn't
look at it.
I wasn't a big fan of the FK8. Like,
Yeah.
it was too angular. I don't know, and that's kind of a preference thing. I really like the new generation, how they styled it, so that was why I went with this pick. I was kind of between this and the Corolla GR. Because the Corolla GR does have all-wheel drive, but I've heard they have like different issues here and there with like heat soak and stuff like that. And overall, look, I really am a better fan of the Civic over the Corolla.
Yeah, and it's basically just building on something that was really great, but just wasn't refined. I mean, the previous Civic Type R set records for the front-wheel drives on Nürburgring, so basically the same engine here, it's the same platform, just really refining it, making the interior a lot better. I've personally been around a couple of these, and that red carpet, it just brings it back to almost its roots in the 90s.
Right, like the Integra Type Bars. I mean, I really like it, and that's why I like the Championship White, that contrast between the red and white interior. I mean, it's just a winning combination. Plus, it's not a screaming color, so like going long distance, you're not going to really stand out to cops.
That's true.
That is a big, big thing, especially if you're going in any kind of sports car. Tops up to pull stuff over, so the more you can kind of blend in, the better. And it's, like I said, it's just a good-looking color.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you anything on that. Like that's a great pick. I didn't see that coming at all, though. I figured you probably would have went with like an RS or something, being you're a Ford guy.
See, and I mean, the RS is great. I mean, I own a Focus ST. It's a great platform. I've done a ton of road trip miles on it, but the RS is so specialty, finding someone to work on, finding parts, and
especially
this being new, you've got warranty right off the bat. Even though it is, in my mind, really expensive for what it is, it's something I feel like you're going to be able to find parts for, be able to find service for, and it's going to retain a lot of its value going forward. So that's why it's my choice overall.
Okay, yeah, so, I absolutely see that.
All right, what did you choose? I'm curious. I'm really curious here.
Yeah, so obviously, there's a lot of different options that we could have went through, and I struggled, I'll be honest, but...
I was going back and forth with mine, like, to the day of shooting here. I kind of was going, I had some saved, I actually deleted a few.
Oh shoot, okay.
So, I had like 9 options, and I just kind of had to whittle it down.
That was your daily, right?
That's the daily,
okay.
So...
All right, well, mine's a little different. I went with a 2005 Audi S4 car. Yeah. Call me crazy because of reliability and finding parts and stuff like that.
It is Volkswagen Auto Group, but I mean the wagon is awesome. I do dig that a lot.
Well, being said, it's like we live in Iowa, we live in the Midwest, you know, we go through winters, and it's like, if I'm gonna have something I gotta, you know, pay big money for, I want something that's completely different.
Now, being
But
that we
it's
had
still
like
do winters.
unlimited budget, I am surprised you went with this and not like something like a Porsche 911 or an RS6 Avant. You
And
know, I figured
yeah.
it was gonna be like way stacked. Like,
And that's the thing, like, I love those cars, but for future collectability and everything with that, as far as owning it long term as well, and ownership cost, a Porsche is going to be far outweighing an Audi. Some people might disagree, but this isn't the 2.7 the previous generation had.
Okay.
This is the 4.2 V8.
I
So
like the seats. I
yeah.
mean, I like those contrasted seats. It reminds me a lot of my SVT that I had.
And the Nagro blue with the blue interior is classic for the line, like the S series of this era. You had an S4, even sedan in this color combo. They're going nuts. So the wagon, super rare, hard to find, especially in this condition.
I doubt you.
127,000 miles. Yeah. Like all the maintenance been done, chain guides, fully resealed engine in February of 23. So it's like, okay, everything's kind of lining up to be that long-term reliable car as long as it's properly maintained.
And like I said, as long as you maintain it, you'll probably be able to sell it for equal to what you paid for, not just a
Exactly,
little more.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
not a bad choice. Okay, budget.
Yeah.
I went a little boring on this one. 2018 Focus ST3 hatchback.
Okay, that makes sense.
That was a little hard finding, especially the ST3 version. I wanted to make sure I had the ST3 because I own an ST3. I am a huge fan of it. I have taken mine so far to 16 different states in the last year and a half that I've owned it. I put 12,000 miles just on road trips alone, and those Recaro seats are an absolute godsend. You cannot get a better seat in my opinion. I've put 10, 12 hours in the car, in those seats at a time, and they're still comfortable as the day I got them. So, I mean, I can't say enough good things about those. And coming from my last vehicle that we used on road trips, my wife's Monte Carlo SS, those seats are absolute murder. Like, after 2 hours, my back is killing me. Whoever designed that at GM, there is a special place in hell for you. I swear to God, okay?
Well, being an SS, it has lumbar, right? That really makes
There is no lumbar, right? The cloth seats in the Monte Carlo are 10 times better. So if you are looking for a Monte Carlo SS for whatever reason, do not get leather. Do not. Just don't do it. They are the most uncomfortable seats you can get in the world. I swear.
Wow.
I mean, it's like sitting in a church pew the entire time you're there. I don't know why, but your back cannot get comfortable. And the cloth, you can go 6-8 hours in those, no problem. So I mean, I would definitely own that car just with different seats in it.
Yeah.
And so that's when I bought mine. That's why I chose. Why I chose it, because the seats were nice and comfortable. They weren't super tight bolsters, but I like having that extra bolster.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Being that this one here is a 2018, so you're going to have Sync 3 in it. So that means you're going to have updated Android Auto and everything. It's got all the bells and whistles. So I mean, it's perfect for those long drives. It's going to have all the modern amenities. It does have a few more miles on it, 91,000, but it was really hard to find anything 2016 plus and get all those features under 15 grand. So
That's true.
I actually went back and forth because there was a 2017 Autobahn GTI I was also considering.
That would have been a good pick too.
But I know that the Autobahn sunroof has a lot of issues, so that's kind of why I went away from that.
Yeah, I've experienced that in person. As you know, we had a 2015 GTI. Not with us anymore for other reasons, but every once in a while it did leak a little bit.
Yeah,
We didn't really use the sunroof that much. I got a buddy that has one too, and you know him as well. I mean, it leaks. And
Well, like the last trip we took, it rained every single day, at least for a little bit.
oh yeah.
So, I mean, it's just one of the things I was considering because you can't always get it into a covered space.
And being that we're talking budget here, that end of the budget on an ST is going to be a lot better quality of a vehicle than a Volkswagen GTI Mark 7 in that budget.
Which is another reason why when I chose my ST that I currently have over a GTI, it was because that motor is shared with 16 other models, I believe, on the same platform.
Wow.
So, I mean, parts are easier to come by, service is easier to get, especially when you're out in the sticks and stuff
That's
like
true,
that.
yeah.
So, overall, I've been really, pleased with mine overall. It's a fun car. It's a fun daily. I've taken it to the track, and I've taken it all over, and it's been great at everything I've thrown at it. Plus, it has tons and tons of space. So, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me just to go with what I know.
Yeah, and I kind of expected that, like, and you'll probably expect my next pick, but still a great option though. I know I've talked to you about, doing an ST even in the past. They're just a really good budget-friendly option to do everything.
Right.
I kind of got into that side of it, but I also went after the Boy Racer in me. I think we all have it.
Well, let's get on here. What do you got?
Yeah, we got a 2013
Fiat Abarth. All right.
A lot of people are going to say, once again, reliability, but these share...
I do dig these cars.
And they share the same engine, kind of like with the ST, as
Right.
Renegade, as a Dodge Dart. There's a ton of different platforms for crossover.
I love the way these sound with an exhaust on. They have the best idle when you put exhaust on these cars. I don't know what it is, but they just have this growl to them. It's so cool.
Yeah, they actually did specific design studies on the exhaust structure and routing to get that sound. Even from the factory, they sound pretty strong.
Now, I've heard something like you can't align the front end. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, they have a basic front end structure. The suspension isn't a super multi-link suspension like we have now, so there's a lot less adjustment with these cars. That's part of the reason why they get such negative reviews on ride quality and being such short wheelbase. And then shoving 17-inch wheels underneath it doesn't help either.
Well, that's another reason. Like, I looked at the Fiesta ST originally as a daily, and I know two of my brothers actually own Fiesta STs, and going between both the longer wheelbase Focus and the Fiesta. Now, the Fiesta is a little more fun, like I imagine the Abarth would be, but just for like long-term ride quality, like going hours and hours, I would much rather be in something with a little bit longer wheelbase.
That's true.
Because even this one, even the Focus is actually a little harsh.
Oh, really?
Compared to a lot of cars. Like, it's sprung so stiff, like you could go up certain angles where it will freewheel trying to get up different parking lot angles.
And that's from the factory suspension.
Right.
Wow.
So that's a factory ride height.
Yeah.
And I just don't think I'd want anything more jarring, especially as you get into like different parts of the country. Like, not all roads are paved the same, and they're only getting worse. It seems like every time. So
yeah, I've been experiencing that a lot. Just on our various trips, it's like, why do I have to pay a toll to go on this road that's in terrible condition? And,
Right.
So I can definitely see you there. The thing that still drew me to this car is, when we're talking budget, it's like, this car is within, 11 years old. It has leather. It has heated seats. Only has 66,000 miles.
I mean, it's not bad.
And,
I like the color. I like the
price
overall.
is $8,700.
So I mean, it's well within your budget.
Yeah, you got a lot left over. To plan for maintenance.
Right.
To plan and budget for the upcoming possible reliability issues as the mileage goes up.
And it's something unique. I mean, you won't see a whole lot of them on the road.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah. All right. Off-road, I think, is what we're going to trail to next. So, my first pick for the unlimited off-road. And I went to the tippy top of the budget here. I went with a 2010 Sportsmobile RB50 at $179,900, which I think I know Sportsmobiles, for those who are into the overlanding scene, these things fetch a premium. This is probably on the upper end, if not way out of line for this. But I mean, just it checks every box. You've got diesel, you've got 4x4, it's got air lockers in it. It's going to have everything you're going to need and want. It's got camping abilities. I mean, you can take this thing absolutely everywhere. And what I like about this one over your general camper is the pop top. It kind of reminds me of the old Westphalias. So you have that lower vehicle height overall, so you can get it to more places. I mean, this is kind of like if I won the lottery, basically, of camping equipment. So I mean, you really can't go wrong here except for the price. Like, if you have the money, this is definitely the route I would choose, because it's going to tackle anything and everything I can throw out as far as camping. I mean, I can go out to Moab, I can take it on the interstate, I can go anywhere with
That
this
thing
thing.
has a crazy departure angle for a van, crazy.
The worn winch on the front. I mean, I think Sportsmobile, it's a factory 6-inch lift over stock. So I mean, you're talking plenty of ground clearance, plenty of off-road lights. Like, you can take this thing literally anywhere and then set up camp. So I mean, you're saving money, I guess, on hotels and stuff like that because this is built to bring your home with you.
Well, and the reliability with those things. I mean, you're basically, it's a work van.
It's a work
designed
van.
to go hundreds of thousands of miles for as cheap and little
Right.
as possible on maintenance.
And you're running the same Power Stroke diesel that every Super Duty's running, so you could take this to literally any Ford garage in the country and get it worked on. So I mean, from that standpoint, you know, maintenance is going to be pretty much a breeze. It's going to be able to find parts pretty much locally, except for the specialty RV parts, obviously.
Yeah.
And like
Well,
I
a lot
said,
of
it should
those
last
are
for
pretty
years and years and years. And I think this one only has 77,000 miles on it. So for a diesel, I mean, we're barely broke in here.
Oh, yeah.
So that was my ultimate choice.
That's a really good pick. You went more on the overlanding side, and that's super popular right now. I know a lot of people are really participating in that community, in that culture.
And it seems like it's growing every year, especially with the whole van life craze and everything like that. It seems like van conversions have become a super popular thing. So this is kind of like the creme de la creme of van conversions.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about that one is like you said, the diesel. That's going to be good for 300,000 miles.
And it maintained more, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like that. I had a Duramax van for, I believe, 36 hours. And it had 400,000 miles on it.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you take care of them, they will run forever.
And it almost makes that 179 make sense. Almost. But not quite.
It's a lot of money. But when you think about it, the new Mercedes-Benz, the Sprinter vans, those 4x4s, I think they're $249 and up.
Oh.
So, I mean, you know, all those Instagram famous van lifers you see out running in the Sprinters, they got some money behind them because those are expensive for reasons I cannot understand. Because I have never been a huge fan of the Sprinter platform because small wheels, high center of gravity. I mean, just having that E-Series van chassis, I would much rather have that over a Sprinter chassis or Transit any day.
It's going to be way more capable off-road.
Way more capable.
Yeah. Well, I went a little bit of a different route.
Okay.
I didn't quite go overlanding. I'm kind of on this Jeep Gladiator kick right now because they're a really good do-it-all vehicle.
Well, you had a Gladiator.
Yeah, exactly.
You leased one for a while.
Had a Gladiator, and we've actually taken it on a road trip. We took it all the way to Colorado. You know, we camped out of the thing with a tent. Like, we also took it up in the mountains. It did great there. We averaged about 23 miles per gallon on the way out there. Which is good for
anything Stellantis.
Exactly.
Like, just so you know, if you're not familiar with anything Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, they typically have the worst fuel economy of any of the big three. I don't know why. I've owned Dodge products, and they consistently get about 15 to 20% worse MPGs than anything else I've ever owned. I don't know why.
Yeah, and it's something weird about this engine in particular, because I have a Dodge Challenger, as you know, that has this engine too.
Right.
And as soon as you get them out on the interstate, they get into that 8th gear, the gas mileage just starts climbing. So the longer trips you take, like the better the gas mileage.
I just remember like my 95, I had a 5.2 Ram, and it did not matter what I did with that truck. I got between 9 and 10 miles to the gallon, which is insane.
Yeah.
Even for that standard, it's like...
Well, and back then, you know, Chevy had their GMT 800 platform.
And they would get like 16. So, I mean, the same motor, you know, displacement equivalent, you're getting like 7 miles a gallon better.
But yeah, I mean, I went with this pick mostly because it's a high altitude. The high altitude is the top trim.
Right.
It has diamond stitched leather interior. You're gonna have all your amenities like heated seats, heated steering wheel, remote start. You're gonna have the 8.4-inch touchscreen, which is the largest you could get. Has the hard trifold tonneau cover, and then most of the time these come with like a highway or an all-season tire.
Yeah, I see it's got, what are those?
Yeah, it looks like they're probably around 35s.
Are they Falcons? Yeah. 33s or 35 that night.
Yeah, and they're Nittos.
Now,
I think they're the Geolandar.
I'm not a huge Jeep fan, but I think they're kind of mostly overpriced and overrated for what they are. What was your experience? Because you said you owned one of these.
Yeah. With
like road noise and stuff, because there's like
up a lot. Yeah.
There's like no panel gap. You know, like everything else, you know, has sound deadening and insulation.
So there's a couple different things that ours make different compared to a lot of like the complaints that people make on them. One, you gotta go with the hardtop.
Okay.
Hardtop makes a huge difference.
But that's just like any convertible. Like any convertible versus a hardtop is gonna be a lot more NVH. Just that's what
yeah,
it is.
exactly. Yeah, and a lot of people would say, okay, well, the Gladiator Wrangler are very similar. The Gladiator is actually quieter on the highway versus the Wrangler. I've owned both as well, and I've noticed that. But the big differentiating factor is the hardtop headliner.
Okay.
So they actually make a hardtop headliner kit that has sound deadening, and there's panels that snap in. They make a big difference. You wouldn't think it looking at them, but that's what I personally experienced myself. And a lot of these high altitudes come with them standard, so that's just another reason why I go with the high altitude.
And it's a popular pick, you know. Yeah. A lot of people like them. A lot of people mod them. There's a lot of different parts you can add. I mean, the community is huge, so I mean, it's still a good pick.
Yeah.
All right, for my budget off-road, I went with this 2015 Subaru Outback Limited Wagon. And I think it's lifted just slightly. I think it's got the 2-inch lift cups. It's got the Method wheels and the all-terrain tires on it. It is not, you know, it's just, I think it would be a kind of like this all-around do it daily. Like, you know, it's got good looks. Again, Subaru, huge off-roading community, all kinds of different parts you can add to it. Outback, very proven platform. I chose the Outback like over the Crosstrek because the Outback seems to be a little more adult. I definitely chose it over the Impreza because it seems like there's a different demographic of ownership. Impreza, you know, you're going to be looking at second motor, cob tuning, this, that, and the other. You tend to have a lot more adult owners with Outbacks, so a lot more maintenance is usually done, a lot more care is usually taken with them. Tons and tons of space for cargo.
Yeah, that's crazy. When the seats are folded down, it's like
you can sleep in the back of this. You know, you can add all kinds of accessories. It's an automatic, so it's, you know, anybody can drive it. Hop in this. You can go on long trips. Subaru is also known for their safety, and so I think it's just a good pick because it's going to get you pretty much anywhere you want to go for the majority of people. Like, I know even on like certain off-road trails, you'll see Jeep guys like all perch at the top, and then there's this little Subaru making its way up.
Bouncing its way up like a deer.
Right. So they're plenty capable, and like I said, for most people, and 90% of all the trips you'd want to take, the Subaru would get you there just fine.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm surprised that this even fits into that budget category. Was it right at the top?
It was right at the top. It was $14,790. So I thought it was actually a really good deal on it.
Yeah,
$14,479.
And that's crazy that it's so close by too. Most of the time, all the good deals, you know,
way out, and it's like 113,000 miles. It had a whole bunch of different like maintenance that had been done to it. Like I said, it is a 2015, so it is almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
But I mean, as long as it's been taken care of, it looks like it's in really good shape. You know, I think it's a solid pick.
Absolutely, yeah.
Plus,
I don't disagree with that at all.
Having the car, that smaller footprint, you know, getting into some national parks, finding places to park is always a pain, especially if you go during peak season, peak hours. So having a car with a smaller footprint versus a bigger truck, like that Sportsmobile, you're going to have a heck of a time finding parking in just like any different like lot. You might have to park with the RVs, and it's usually full. So the Subaru can kind of like squeeze its way into just about any space you need it to. And that's another thing to consider when you're taking a lot of road trips is where will this car fit? You know, I see a lot of guys with like brand new F-250s, and they got like 36-foot campers trying to make it through like downtown Atlanta. And I can't think of a more anxiety-inducing experience than trying to tow like 40-some foot behind you in a massive truck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing to think about too, and that entered my mind when we were getting into the off-road categories, is I gotta have something that's not going to charge me an arm and a leg going on some of these toll roads. Because you know, if you had that giant conversion van, they're going to charge you extra on some,
Right.
Whereas you have something like this, it's a little tiny.
Plus, your consumables on a car are always going to be cheaper. Your fuel's going to be cheaper right off the bat. Tires are going to be cheaper. Suspension, stuff like that. I mean, the bigger the tire they get, the worse the fuel economy is going to be. The higher the replacement cost. I think like a 33-inch tire for my truck right now is almost $300, depending on the brand. So I mean, you're looking at almost $1,500 for mount balance.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that definitely is a lot of money.
It's a lot to consider.
Adds up way quicker than you realize.
Right.
Too. Yeah, especially when you're doing a lot of road trips.
Exactly.
I went a little bit of a different route, and of course, you know, expect me to go a different route, believe it or not. But
I'm expecting the unexpected with this, so.
little off the beaten path though for what I normally
Nissan
do.
Caravan.
Yeah, it's a '92 Nissan Caravan. It
I
was
did not
imported
expect
over.
this one at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
imported over from Japan.
I expected you to actually go with a Vanagon. I really did.
Really?
I really expected
Okay.
a Vanagon.
Well, I went with this because of the reliability factor. Not that Vanagons aren't unreliable, but I've learned just from owning a variety of Volkswagen products,
Yeah.
they break in the most inopportune times. So if I'm, off-roading, I'm out in the wilderness, I want something that's going to be Japanese proven reliability.
Right. But I mean, being a '92 Nissan Caravan, like that's not exactly something I'm assuming the parts counter at O'Reilly's is going to have handy.
Probably not.
I
But it is a bulletproof TD27 4-cylinder diesel.
Okay.
And it uses a timing chain, not the timing belt. I didn't know a whole lot about what all that meant. So I looked it up, and apparently these engines are one of the best engines ever to come out of Nissan,
Okay.
which is saying pretty big things. But at the same time, it also has a 4-speed automatic. So don't get those cool, manual.
Right,
four-wheel
but then
drive,
again,
but-
anybody can hop in and drive it.
it's true, yep, and that's kind of what I was thinking too. If I was off-roading, I'm not wanting to drive a manual. Like if I'm doing
Now,
a
a lot of
shelf
people-
road or something.
A lot of people want manual for off-road just to be able to control
Yep,
the ascent and descent, but yeah, like a lot of people just doing trails, shifting and stuff.
yeah. I'm a novice. I just
Right,
do it for
so,
fun.
yeah,
So
yeah.
having that option, and then what they also did is they actually already removed all the seats. So this was a passenger van. But
Okay.
they took it out, and then you have all that cargo space, which could be, converted or whatever, as needed. So, and I thought it for being pretty much turnkey, only having 100,000 miles on it.
It's
came over
definitely an
years
interesting
ago.
choice. You won't see two of them going on.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, with that in mind, we are on to the sports car category. Okay,
My
so
favorite.
for the sports cars, I mean, there's a lot of different options.
Absolutely.
You can spend as much money. The sky's the limit for that. I was trying to think from the most practical aspects of things, like we've talked about, size getting into places,
That's true.
suspension being too low is definitely a factor when you go anywhere, potholes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I went for the safe option here. I went for
Okay.
a 2024 Toyota GR86. It does have the 6-speed manual transmission.
Nice.
I wouldn't per se, I wouldn't be opposed to the 6-speed automatic that they have with the paddle shifters, just because that way the wife could drive it too.
Yeah.
Even though she can drive manual, it has come up things happen. My Focus ST 6-speed manual, I do 100% of the driving because my wife, even though she can drive manual, doesn't like to. So she's not comfortable in traffic, so there you go, I do all the driving. Problem comes though, you get sick, God forbid, something happens, I've been sick and I've had to drive 10 hours and it's not fun. So it would be nice to hand over the reins once in a while.
Yeah.
Now where the 6-speed is always going to shine is on the track. We've done a couple different track days while we've been out and it's always a lot of fun. The reason I like the GR86 versus say getting something else like a Corvette or a Miata, you're going to have a lot more cargo space in the GR86. The seats in the back fold flat. You have a nice big trunk. You can't really fit anybody in the back seats,
Yeah.
but there's extra storage. The ride height's a lot higher. The actual length of the car, width of the car is shorter than most, so you're going to have better ground clearance. You're going to have better approach angles and stuff like that. So as a car to leave stock, I think it's a great choice for an all-rounder.
Well, the crazy thing is, I can't lie, I wasn't fully expecting this, but at the same time, I can kind of see, just knowing you that you'd go this route, but being sky's the limit. This is kind of one of the last budget sports cars.
Right, it is, and it really is. It's like
Yeah.
the bottom barrel price for sports cars. It's still that
Yeah.
entry level, and I think in a lot of cases it's even cheaper than most MX-5s right now.
Oh yeah. Well,
So-
you get the coupe versus the convertible, and I
Right.
know a lot of people would say, oh, you got the RF, but The Targa is kind of that weird halfway in between.
Well, and I think that the RF itself, just having that roof come out, takes a lot of cargo space away from an already limited cargo.
That's true.
Area anyway.
And these even caught my attention. I mean, the design on these versus the first generation, they look so much more sporty, so much more timeless, if you will.
I will say they have like what I call like buy it, leave it alone. Kind of thing. Like I thought the first gen FRS and stuff, they look much better with modifications. This one I could live with the way it comes from the factory. Like I could live with the wheels. Like I don't really feel the need to change things out immediately. I mean, I probably would, knowing me, but it's one of those cars I could live with as is.
And this brings up the question. I mean, as everybody knows, we got the Toyota side, and then we also got the Subaru side. Why do you choose the Subaru over the Toyota? Is there any particular reason?
I don't know. I like the Toyota styling just a little bit better. I think it's the grille for me. And it was on the BRZs as well. Like when the first generation BRZ came out, I just think the BRZ in this generation looks a little bit froggy.
Oh, sure.
It kind of has that goppy looking, whereas the Toyota kind of has just a little bit more gill to it. I don't know, it has more of a fish versus a frog appearance.
Yeah.
So I went with the Toyota just because it looks alone.
Well, and this is probably going to hold its value a little better too. Just having that Toyota name versus the Subaru.
The Subarus, I don't know. Sometimes they hold just about as equally, if not more, because I think sometimes the Subaru gets a little bit finer interior appointments versus the Toyota. But I think just looks alone, I go with the Toyota.
Well, in that color.
Right.
That color's sweet.
Yeah, it really is. What did you go with?
Okay. So, pull it up here. This one's pretty predictable. I went with a 2018 Audi TT RS.
Which you had, so you have plenty of experience with it.
Yeah, I had the TTS, the ultimate, for any Audi guys, the RS. They just quit making the TT after 20 plus years production run non-stop, which is a long time for a German manufacturer. They seem to switch up all the time.
Right.
And the RS is the ultimate. So you get the 5-cylinder turbo.
And this is still this automatic.
Yep. And this is the last generation of TTRS. You had that first gen, which only came with the manual. I think they had the automatic, but it was available in Europe only for once we actually got the manual option without the auto. But this one went with that dual clutch. And honestly, dailying a TTS with the same dual clutch for 25,000 plus miles, I did not mind it at all. A lot of people would go, oh, it's a sports car, it needs to be manual. Surprisingly,
anymore the automatics are so good.
Oh yeah.
That you're really not missing out on a whole lot. Like, I mean, Corvettes basically ditched the manual. The shifts are so much faster, and you're still getting that same interaction with the paddles, and it's like lightning quick. So I mean, for lap times and everything.
Yeah.
And just being able to just then shut down and then just cruise down the highway. Sometimes I think the automatics are where it's at, honestly, and that's coming from a die-hard manual.
Well, and I road tripped mine, down to Tail of the Dragon for the Wookiees in the Woods, and it was a great road trip car down there. I averaged like 34 miles per gallon. When I got down there, though, I could rip around and not have to worry, because you still have that modern drivetrain with the dual clutch. That they've really worked out. A lot of the earlier cars that were there, the R32s, the VR6 and flapping paddles, they're not as reliable, but they finally got that dual clutch worked out to where it's mostly reliable.
And like I said, most companies have gotten to a point now where the automatic transmission is far and away superior to anything they're offering manual. So, and even most manuals now aren't true manuals in the sense that we think of them. So,
electric clutch assist.
Right, exactly. Even my Focus has like hill assist and stuff on the clutch and stuff. So it's either way you're emulating control. So I mean,
well, and who doesn't like 400 horsepower of turbo 5-cylinder sound?
Plus it's in that red color.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a really sharp looking car. So that's a decent choice. All right, budget. I went kind of predictable. I really wanted an S2000. I'm going to be very, very honest. I wanted an S2000. Finding a sub $15,000 S2000 anymore, you're finding junk. There's nothing worth owning.
You're about 3 or 4 years late.
Right. you're basically at an S2000 now. You're 22 plus for something halfway decent.
Yeah.
So I went with something that I have owned before, and I went with this 1997 Chevrolet Corvette Coupe. Arguably the least desirable C5 year, least desirable C5 interior, least desirable transmission. But what got me on this one is the mileage. It is a cream puff at 41,000 miles, at right at the top of our spin limit at 15 grand. It is immaculately clean. Like I said, it's probably not the best interior with that gray two-tone, but it's not the worst. It could be the camel interior. It is the slush box automatic 4-speed, but I mean, you could just put tons and tons of miles on this car. This car is, I've seen examples of this car go 700,000 miles, no joke, on the original powertrain, with obviously with maintenance and everything. But it's a bulletproof engine. It's a bulletproof design.
Yeah.
Any Chevrolet dealer can get you parts for these. Any Chevrolet dealer's worked on these cars. They're not rare, regardless of what the ad post says. It's not rare. Doesn't matter what day of the week it was built on. And having the base versus the Z06, that hatchback will put more stuff in the back of that car than any other sports car I think that's ever been produced or ever will be produced. There's just so much room back there.
That's a great pick. Honestly, I didn't think you could find a C5 of that quality, that caliber, with that mileage.
I think that the market's finally starting to adjust back to reality.
Oh, okay. That's very encouraging. I know
there are still wild examples out there. In fact, I actually found my old C5 for sale again.
Of course.
And it has a rebuilt title on it, and they're still asking $18,000 for it.
Wow.
Yeah. With 118,000 miles versus where you could buy this exact car with 41,000 miles with a clean title.
And the only difference between that automatic versus the manual was...
And it's like, so, I mean, obviously Corvette prices are going to be all over, so you're going to have to do some looking, but being patient and finding the right example, I think, will pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to lose any money on that. Like,
no.
You're buying it at such a good price with the mileage. You're so far ahead.
It hasn't been touched. It's completely stock. It is the quintessential boomer spec that you want to find, like the one that has spent all of its life either in the garage or in the shop being maintained meticulously. So, you know, if I was going to choose a car that I was going to put tens of thousands of miles on, this is what I want, because I want to be able to put those miles on it without worrying. Versus having something that's modded and maybe looks a lot cooler, but is going to give me a headache every 300 miles, you know? So that is why I went with that example.
That's a great pick. Honestly, you went the predictable route. I also went the predictable route.
We're going with what we know.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned a lot.
Another TT, and you know what? You have one.
Yep, I still have my Mark I TT, as you know. And I went this direction because it only has 96,000 miles.
It is low.
These cars, you always find them for sale. They're 150,000+ mile cars because they were used as daily drivers.
Right. I mean, they weren't considered anything super special, especially without like the RS badging or anything behind it. It was just a daily driver.
They're really coming into their own. We've noticed, some small price increases on these cars, and it's getting to the point where you can't find clean coupes.
They're getting to that same kind of that age gap where like the clean ones are either they're starting to ask a mint for them because there's fewer examples, and then the rest of them have just been clapped out and modded to the point where you don't want to deal with it.
They're very much that car that's in the tuner scene too, even though they're the odd duck out, but they're still in it.
They're still kind of, and they were still part of that era too.
Correct.
That mid 2000s era where they would have been in the tuner scene.
And this is one of those, like you said earlier, kind of buy it and leave it alone cars, but people didn't realize that at the time. So finding a clean one in this condition, Lake Silver Metallic is not the most popular color because
I'm a huge fan of silver though. It's timeless, it's classic, it's always going to look good.
Yep. And on this design, it just pops. It just looks right. This one's a 180, so it's the lower
trim
horsepower. Yep, but it still is the Quattro coupe. You could get these in a front-wheel drive, and they're not going to be as desirable as the Quattro. Of course, this one would be a 5-speed manual.
It's got all. It's taken a lot of the right boxes.
Yeah.
Black interior, silver. I mean, you just can't go wrong with this one. I feel like.
Absolutely. And buying it at $8,000, you know, with a budget of 15.
Yeah, that leaves you plenty of room for both maintenance and mods if you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
And
you can
do a simple tune on a 180 and be up to a 225.
Right. Should you desire to.
Yep. So that's the route that I went to. I think it would be a good all-around. But let's go ahead and move on to that next category.
All right, last category, we did the classics. So this is anything, we kind of just decided 25 years and older because that's what insurance deems as a classic. It's a little hard for me to stomach that 25 years now is like 1999.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I think of classic cars, I'm still thinking of like pre-1985. Like that's where I go in my mind immediately. You know, so with that in mind, I did go the classic route for my first pick for my unlimited budget. I did a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air Nomad.
Okay.
And it's in two of the best colors. So tropical turquoise and red, I think, are like the quintessential Bel Air colors. So you're getting that real classic off the bat with that red and the red and black interior.
Yeah.
It has been modified, so it does have a small block Chevy in it. It has vintage air, it has power disc brakes, so it has some upgrades to it. I mean, I just don't think there's anything more road trip classic than a classic Chevrolet station wagon. I just don't think you can get any more, you know, American road trip than that. I'm a huge fan of the 57, the Tri-5 era. I know they're gigantic cars, but like I said, it's got some great upgrades to it with the power disc brakes and the air conditioning, which is going to be a godsend, especially in a car that's basically mostly glass going all the way around.
That's true.
Being it's a small block Chevy, it's not going to get the best gas mileage, but there's always LS swap kits if you wanted to. You know, if your budget's this high, obviously you've got the budget for that.
Yeah.
But even then, parts are going to be everywhere. Everybody can work on a small block Chevy. Everybody's got a small block Chevy, like somewhere, you know.
Yeah, that's
anybody
true.
who's into mechanics has worked on one of these.
You can walk into, you know, any car store and they're gonna basically have anything you need right there on the shelf. That's a really good option. Actually.
So, and then, like I said, it's you know, most of these cars that are on this dream list are something that's on the bucket list for me.
I did the same thing.
I would like to maybe own one of these. I would even do the 4-door variant versus the Nomad. The Nomad's a little more rare.
Yeah.
You know, it's always going to command a premium. You could probably get a 4-door in a similar condition for about half.
And that's maybe the direction that, you know, would be the smart choice, being that, you know, you're going to be road tripping this car, and there's a possibility that you could get into an accident, and you know, the amount of roasting you're going to get on the internet for,
well,
you know, ruining a Nomad.
You know, but I mean, these cars are meant to be driven.
It's true.
It doesn't matter, you know, if it's a $200 car or $200,000 car. You know, if you're not driving it, what's the point of having it?
I agree 100%. Yeah,
I don't know.
Influenced my next pick actually.
And like I said, I don't know if classic cars like this, if you're going to see the market stay the same for these now that the core demographic of buyers is starting to age out and unfortunately pass away. What the market is going to do for these cars going forward, because like I said, they don't meet most regular safety standards. They're not fuel efficient, and for the most part, because they were so valuable for the boomer generation, like the boomer generation really drove the value of these cars up, priced most of us out of, you know, even being interested in these cars. What is going to happen to that market going forward?
Yeah.
You know, because we've already kind of adapted and have found different interests in different segments of the automotive world. So
and see, that's why you have like Radwood and, you know, places like that really coming up, and that definitely, you know, you're gonna see that with my budget pick versus like my higher price pick, because I've been forced to move into you know, some of those more budget friendly segments because of, you know, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, you modify what you can afford, and you kind of end up falling in love with what you know have. And it's the same reason they fell in love with these cars, because they were cheap back then, so the memories were attached to them. That's why Civics, you know, from the 90s and Integras and stuff like that are going through the roof right now, because people like me grew up with those cars when they were $500 to $1,000 beaters, and we have a lot of fond memories of those cars. So there you go, when we have the money, clean examples are now bringing a lot of money.
Yeah, And I think you'll continue seeing that with a lot of those cars that were forgotten about and weren't appreciated at the time.
The 80s resurgence is huge right now. I never thought I would see a lot of the 80s cars bringing the value and the interest that they're getting right now. So what did you choose for yours?
Yeah, so I went with a 63 Ford Galaxy.
Interesting choice.
Yeah. This car.
She's a four-door.
Yeah, I like the four-door for the road trip side of it.
Okay.
It has a nice look even though it's a four-door.
It's got a really good stance to it. And I'm always a fan of, like, on older 60s vehicles, especially that clean, simple steel wheel with the polished cap.
Oh yeah, that's exactly. This has been a long time dream of mine. My first dream car was actually a Ford Galaxy.
Okay.
Ended up going, with that 944 completely off to the left versus this, but
I was because the Galaxy too.
One, so
I like the Galaxy look. I'm a huge fan of the Galaxy Starliners.
Yeah.
The two doors with the chrome on the bottom. Even the Galaxy wagons. I know those are really hard to find.
Yeah, the Country Squire. Yeah. But it has a blue interior, big old bench seat in the front. Still has the original big steering wheel, so it has all the classic charm. But then
20 grand is not terrible.
No, $20,000. But look at that.
Is that 302?
So that is a 390.
390.
Yeah, it's the what they use. They called it the Interceptor motor.
Right.
And they used it in the Thunderbird too. And these are tried and true Ford engines.
Well, it looks like it's been recently redone.
Yep, they did a dual quad Edelbrock ABS 2 carb setup on it. Has a rebuilt C6 3-speed auto. They just repainted it factory Corinthian white.
So a lot of works went into this car.
Yeah, it's almost a resto mod,
right?
But it doesn't look it,
It didn't have that survivor look to it, and a lot of people don't invest this kind of money into a four-door because they don't have the resale of their two-door counterparts.
Yep. And that's kind of why I went with it too, because if somebody's willing to do that, they really had to love this car.
Yeah, they had to put in the time.
Yeah, we got an OEM style Bluetooth stereo, so you have OEM look, but you have the Bluetooth capability,
which is good.
Road trip.
Yeah, music is a very important part.
Yeah, and a lot of
podcast
people,
music, maps.
Yeah.
That cannot be undersold.
Yeah, when they're buying an old car, that they're going to play
any car for that matter. Yeah. Just being able to have those creature comforts. I mean, it goes a long way. Like, just listening to FM radio gets old after about 45 minutes.
Yeah,
of commercials.
you learn that they also start repeating on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
All the music just eventually day after day is the same in the same order.
And that's when I went with the Focus, especially, I went for that bigger touchscreen because it had Android Auto. I could plug in my phone and have my maps up on the screen, so it's hands-free. I can go through my Spotify playlist. Stuff like that is the little things you may not think are important initially when you're picking your car, but they become super important once you're on the road because that's literally where you're spending your time. That is your office, essentially. That's where you're spending 8 to 9 hours of your day. And it better be comfortable. It better have all the features that you need to get there, without misery. Good climate control.
Yeah.
AC is important, especially if you're traveling anywhere in the South in the summer. Ask me how I know.
I can see that.
Yeah, like when we went down to Savannah, I think it was 110 degrees with full humidity. So I mean, AC is a definite.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so for my last pick, I went a little off the cuff.
Okay, I like it.
I went with a 1987 Jeep Grand Wagoneer.
That's the ultimate.
With the ultimate dad wagon.
Yeah.
But this one has been lifted, I think, about 4 inches. So it has that kind of that neat off-roader look. I grew up, my dad always was into lifted trucks, so I really have a fondness for this classic style. It still has the AMC 360 in it, so not a great motor for fuel economy, but it does have Poly Sniper EFI on it, so it has been worked on a little bit.
Well, that's a great system. They're turning a really old, reliable engine into something.
They've started the process of making this more reliable, more modern.
Yeah.
It isn't the cleanest. It does have some rust and issues like that, but it's $7,500. Wow. It's a great starting point. It leaves me double, the budget to put into it to make it into something like it's. This is something I would imagine would be so cool to take into Colorado, into the woods, go camping, go canoeing, kayaking, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of the only vehicles that I actually like wood paneling on.
Yeah.
You know, like it just seems to fit.
Yeah, I mean, it has the look and appeal of something that you see on a T-shirt that's completely unrelated to, like, you know, all this car stuff. You know, we're all car enthusiasts, so like we look at road tripping different. But like, if you go to a shop and they're like selling road trip apparel, that's gonna be the stereotypical. So
it's one of those stereotypical, like, it's what every millennial hipster who we aspire to. This makes me want to grow my beard longer and buy flannel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has that look for sure. So.
But it's still got that macho appearance. You know, like it's the next in my mind to like the lifted square body pickup. It's that iconic.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows these vehicles.
And that wood looks great.
Right.
That wood, it's such a dated thing, but it's like kind of coming back in. You know, people kind of start.
It does not work on the new Wagoneer.
No,
I have seen it on the new Wagoneer. It doesn't work.
No, and that's a completely different market. It's literally Cadillac Escalade.
Right. Yeah.
You know, back in the day when this came out, there was nothing of a luxury SUV. This is the 4x4 family truckster. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
This is what this was. If you had kids and you needed capability as a 4-wheel drive, this is what you had.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah,
I looked for like between this and a Cherokee Jeep, like the 70s Jeeps with the Razor grill.
Yeah.
That was my first pick. Finding something decent into the sub 15 category is very hard. Whereas these are still new enough where you can kind of get in within that range.
Yeah.
The really nice examples of this are 45 to 50 grand plus. So I mean, you know, you're going to have to find a little bit rougher example.
Yeah. Well, and that was the budget pick, right?
That's the budget pick.
Yeah, for the off-road.
Yeah.
So the classic.
This is the classic. This is the classic.
So yeah, okay.
87, we're a classic, you know.
We're trying to keep that in mind. And even though I'm younger than you, like I still kind of think like, you know, old as being something. But once again, like we were talking about earlier with the boomer, you know, generation kind of pricing us out of stuff, I could definitely.
Because I mean, trying to find a car, like I found a couple like G-body El Caminos for the 15 grand, but I mean, finding something sub 15 grand is very, very hard.
It is, yeah.
That's gonna run. Like it's gonna get you a couple hundred miles without breaking down.
Yeah. So. Well, and I went this route, and you're gonna say,
very classic. Yeah.
Why would I not?
Firebird. I think I looked at this one.
So
actually.
Yeah, it's marked as a Firebird Trans Am. It's stupid. They do this all the time. It's a Fiero.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people, the Fiero is so little known. For a lot of people, the marketplace doesn't even have an option for it. You got to put it in as custom.
Okay.
So. This car is mislabeled, and maybe that's why this is such a good price. I'm not sure, but these, everybody that's watching doesn't know. I got an '87 Pontiac Fiero GT. I've had it for
so I think like at least 6 of our choices have been cars we either currently own or have owned. So I mean, we're really thinking outside the box here.
But I've taken mine on plenty of road trips. I've driven mine here from Iowa all the way to Pennsylvania.
I know you've taken yours a lot of places, and a lot of more places than I would ever feel comfortable taking a Pontiac Fiero.
So to me, it's like this is my only option. I went with the same year as mine because it's the best year. It has the 5-speed manual that the 88s had. They only had that available in 85 or 87 and 88. Any prior were 4 speeds. So you get that. The 87 and on had a larger fuel tank, so you get that in this one as well.
So a little extra range. Is this one an Iron Duke then, or is
it is not. So this one being a GT, it comes with a 2.8 V6. They're a really great motor as long as you take care of them. They don't make a whole lot of power, but they're iron head, iron block, like.
But they'll still cruise 70, 75.
Oh
right?
yeah,
so, that's another big thing.
Like with AC, I can get 25 miles per gallon with mine. So
there's a suspicious lack of anything air cooled on these lists, and that is for anybody that knows us too. We are big air cooled guys. Like in spirit, not so much in practice. Like, we love our air cooled Volkswagens. He owns a Ghia. I've owned a Beetle. I've owned several Beetles, but they're not on this list because they don't like to cruise at the right speeds, no air conditioning, reliability parts are becoming very hard to find. And I think that would actually, that would be another good video for us to talk about, like, because you see them on Instagram all the time, people idolizing or these old vintage
They're one of those
Volkswagens.
hipster vehicles.
Right, they're
almost
one of those
nowadays.
iconic vehicles that
Yeah.
everybody kind of aspires to because they look great in Instagram photos.
Yep.
But to live with is a completely different thing, and I was trying to find cars for my list that I knew I could live with, you know, doing hundreds, if not thousands of miles at a time, and it would actually get there and back.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly why I went with this route because you know you're getting mid-engine, so you're getting that like
Right.
you know sound keeps you awake on some of the long trips. Definitely helps.
It does drone.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Drone is not a good thing mostly. You know,
for me,
for him it is, but not
it
for me.
helps keep me awake. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I listen to the engine, you know, I can kind of become one with the car and just go for it. You know,
Like that was one of the specific things when I upgraded my exhaust on my Focus. I specifically picked a system that was loud only when I wanted it to be and did not drone on the highway. So many Focus ST owners, they have the loudest exhaust, and I do not know how they live with themselves inside the cabin. Like my car is almost completely stock quiet at 80 miles an hour, and that is honestly one of the best things about it. Like it's only loud when I want it to be.
well, mine is loud pretty much all the time, and I plan to even do some more with the exhaust.
Yeah.
But for being a 37-year-old car though, and being $7,000, having 87,000 miles on it, you know,
Again, plenty of money in the budget for mods.
and you got plenty of good miles on this engine.
Right.
Mine, I bought it 76,000 miles. Mine has even been abused and not really well taken care of until it came into my ownership. And I'm at 114,000, and the most major issue I've had is a VGR pipe delete, which break, and then I just deleted it.
You did spit a spark plug. I mean, we're still trying to figure out if that's a
Yeah, that
huge issue
happens.
right now or not. But
Don't
it
really
did
know
spit a
why.
spark plug.
But I mean, I drove it here.
It is still running. I mean, to its credit.
Yep. Probably gonna drive it back home. You know, who knows?
We will update.
Yeah. But that would be my pick. I've driven them all over the country, and they've proven to be great. So.
And you know what? I think it was actually a very solid and sound list. I really I'm glad neither one of us, you know, for especially our unlimited picks, went for something completely like off the wall. Like, you know, I looked at a couple of GT3 RS Porsches that were like $500,000 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, but I think all of our picks are pretty rooted in reason. I don't, you know, maybe minus the Sportsmobile, which, I mean.
Well, and I mean, dailying S4 of on.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of variety, but that's our picks for these. If you like what we did in this video, drop a comment below. If you want to see more of these types of videos, you know, let us know. We'll try and make more content centered around this. If you want to see more like our personal vehicles, let us know. We're just really trying to figure out at this point, you know, what you guys would really like to see out of this channel as we kind of craft it and make it into something. And like I said, so if you want to see more stuff like this, drop us a comment, drop us a like, subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to see some more of the stuff that I do off camera at the Blacktop Nomad. Where can people follow you, Larkin?
I'm mostly active on Facebook. I'm kind of an old soul.
Old soul, yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook guy. One of the last.
I do have Instagram. It's LJC_cars. I post there every now and again. You can find some of my photos on there.
Maybe this will force you to be more active on your Instagram.
I don't know.
So everybody follow Larkin on his Instagram. Make him be more active. Follow me for sure. I would love to have a few followers, more than 2. You know, it'd be nice. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next video. And thanks for watching.